All right, for this week's online lecture, we're going to go through Chapter 4 of the textbook, AutoCAD 2015 for Civil Engineering. Starts on page 219. The majority of, well, not the majority, but a lot of this material we've already kind of skimmed over in our labs, but we're going to look at it in a little bit more detail, particularly the sixth line down, learning to use cancel, erase, undo, redo, pan, oops, copy, array. Some of these things are very valuable tools in learning how to efficiently use the AutoCAD drawing software. So we'll start by just looking on page 220 at grips. And again, we've already played with these. I'm going to take this object, just select it, and those blue dots that show up are grips. I'm just going to right click and say let's copy that selection over here so we can play around with it. So again, we'll select it. If I grab the center handle, I can move it, or the center grip, I guess I should use the right terminology. If I grab this grip, we can actually change the radius of the circle, and you can see it gives me the coordinates. So if I wanted to make this a 3-inch radius, I can do it that. Or again, if I want to bring it back in, you can see how that kind of grays up there if I just hit my tab key. So notice the 1.6 is highlighted, the 1.4 is. So I think if I hit tab, it pulls it to the other side so we can actually do that. And if I hit my, you notice this little down arrow over on the side. If I hit my down arrow, whoops, I guess I gotta let like that, I can say copy or base point. So let me see if I can hit C, enter. So now if I bring it down in here, I can actually make a copy of the circle. So grips are pretty important items. And then once we make this one, if I pull it out, it wants to, I think I hit a tab, there we go. Gotta grab the right handle here. There we go. So I can pull it out. You can see it's going to 2.2 or 0.6 from the outer ring. So if I want to go out, say 2.5, enter. Now it's a 2.5 radius. And we can do this also with lines. If I select this line, if I grab the center one, I can make a copy of it, or I can just move it. If I hadn't done that, I just did a Control Z to undo. If I select it again, and this time I can copy the selection, so we'll just copy it so it doesn't destroy the original point. I'm just right mouse button. So once I click this, I can just right mouse button and it says move. I want to erase it, scale it, rotate it. So if I just select this, I can move it, or I can grab the endpoint and we can extend it. And you can see how those grips appear again. I can extend it by 0.9, or I can hit my tab key and watch how the focus goes from 0.9 to the 8.4 side. Now I can make the overall line say 9 inches instead of 8, and it will come off that base point. So you get both options of either extending it a specific distance from the endpoint that you select, or you can move the endpoint back to the original endpoint and just put in the distance that you want. It's whatever you have for information that allows you to do that. So playing around with these. Now one more thing I wanted to, if we have a polyline, and I'm just going to draw a polyline here. Happen to be in my dimension, so hopefully you can see that. And I select this. You'll notice it gives me this flat bar. If I hold my mouse over it, or excuse me. Doing this wrong. Hold it on, and then you can pull this down. I can stretch it, or I can add a vertex, or I can convert to an arc. Let's try all of these. If I want to stretch it, I can stretch it this way. So it stretches the whole thing from that point. If I hold it and I want to add a vertex, now I've changed that midpoint selection to a vertex so I can add another elbow to it. So I can do it here, add a vertex. I can do it here, add a vertex. If I go to the endpoint, I can also add another vertex from that end. Now, this one says convert to an arc. You can actually change this to an arc, and let's see what this does if I want to remove vertex. See, it doesn't give you the option of an arc on an endpoint, just on a midpoint. Remove vertex, convert to an arc. Doesn't really give you a lot of information, but allows you to do that anyway. So it's just another way to use grips. So play around with that a little bit. Anytime we want to change, if you don't like the size of your grips, right click, say options, right at the very bottom, and you can change the size of your snaps. And if you go to selection, here's your grip size. I can make them bigger or smaller. So depending on your screen, you may want to make those a little bit bigger. The pix box size we can make a little bit bigger. I don't know if you can change the color of these. No, probably within the other settings. So we'll just say apply and OK. So now if I select this object, you'll see my grips are quite a bit bigger. So I don't really like that. Hit escape, right click, go to options, come back here, and we'll make them smaller. So now when I select it, they're a little bit more manageable. You don't even have to, you can actually grab a grip and just move it arbitrarily. Grip colors. Oh, look at that. Where did they find that? Grip colors. Oh, there it is. I was looking right at it, wasn't I? Right click, options, grip colors. So we can change our grip color if you want it something brighter, or you can select a specific color. Maybe I want to go to this fuchsia color. Hit apply, OK. Whoops. Hit OK. Apply, OK. So now when I select it, I get these hot pink or fuchsia grip colors. Probably shouldn't have done that. Anyway, right click. I got to unselect this. Right click, go to options, go to grip colors, and we'll go back to, I think it was this one. Hit OK and apply. Close that out. And now we can look at it and see our grip colors. I'm not sure, but that was the same, but it's closer and it's not hot pink, so I don't need. So the next thing we're going to talk about is selection methods. Some of you have stumbled across selection methods, and I want to expand on that just a little bit. If I want to select all of these items in this group right here, so what happens if I just left click, let it go, and drag it across and left click? What's going to get selected? In this case, it's only going to select the things that are completely inside this rectangular box. So if I left click, it's only going to grab this line. Okay? Now, let's try it a different way. What if I start at the bottom, right-hand corner, do the same thing, left click and let it go, bring it up here and cross everything? What's going to get selected? In this case, when you go from right to left, it'll actually select everything that touches inside the box, regardless of whether it's inside or out. So if I left click, you'll notice everything selects. So left to right, it only selects the things that are completely within inside that what we call rubber band box. Right to left, it selects anything that is even remotely inside the box. So again, let me just go through. I'll just touch a little bit of this. You'll notice left click, everything's just the one piece selects. Now watch what happens if I hit escape, and I'm just going to start up here, left click, and just go across here. You'll notice how it highlights those things, and it's going to select anything that was touching inside that box. Very important tool to remember because you can get confused if you're going left to right or right to left. The other way to do it is just hold your mouse button down. Starting up here in the left, if I just hold it down, it creates this shape. And if I let it go, because I started from the left and went to the right, it's only going to select that object. Let's see if the same thing happens from right to left. If I come here and I just select these things, is it going to select nothing or anything that's inside? Bingo, it's going to do the same thing. So when I hold my mouse button down, I get this ability to select the rubber band box and see everything got selected that was showing up in there. So if I go from left to right, and I'll start over here, it's only going to select the things that are within that rubber band that are completely within it. So again, a little bit confusing, but know that I can left click with this and create an odd shape. So if you've got an area that's kind of difficult to select in between things and you're zoomed in on it, you can use this ability to create this funky shape. Or if you just left click and let go and drag left click again, it'll create a rectangular box for you to select things. So depending on what you need to do is important to work with that. Now, if I just have an individual object, just getting back to the grips, if I just left here and I come down into this box and see how it turns that red that says that's what I got, you'll notice it comes up specify stretch point or gives me a little down arrow. So I'm just going to hit the down arrow on my keyboard. And it says, what do you want to do? Copy, undo, or exit? I want to copy this, so that's what I'm going to do most often. I just hit the C for copy, and it allows me to make a copy of that piece. Okay? All right, moving on. We've talked about handles, object. Of course, we use the escape key to undo some things. Zoom capabilities. I know some of you that are using Macs are having some issues with the zoom capabilities. If we look under our View tab, which is right here, we have, is it View? Should be under Navigate. I'm sure I see it here. Home. Oh, there it is. View. No, that's something else. I don't use it that much, so I'm not even sure. Zoom window. It's on page 225. View, manage. Should be right here. And it's probably, that's Viewport tools. That's the interface. I'm not in a viewport, so view. I'm typing in some. I hate it when I says the book says the stuff is there, but I don't see it, so. Markup, properties, tool palettes. Right there, but I don't see. That's all other things. I mean, you can come over here. Basically the same stuff is over here. So you've got your full navigation wheel. Right here is our view palette. So you can zoom extents, zoom window, zoom previous. So when you got a Mac, you may need to use this For me, because I don't really use it that often, I don't get into it because I'm more into using the mouse. If I scroll with my wheel in, I can zoom in. If I scroll out, if I double click my wheel straight down, it actually zooms anything in my drawing to its full extents. Again, zoom out, zoom in. It's pretty easy to use. So I'm not really sure where that's hiding up here, but it's oh, that's view. My computer just locked up on me a little bit here. Hopefully it'll release. Oops. Drafting standards. I have no idea what that is. So. Oh, that's just drafting standards. We don't need to mess with that. That's how to set it up. But there is a tool up here. I'm just not sure. Thought it was on the home team, but don't really see it. These are, that's an inventor. Well, we'll just use this one over here because mostly it's just going to be the zoom extents. But again, you shouldn't even need to get into that because we can also just type zoom and let's go down to zoom wheel. You notice that's got a toolbox on it. Let's just mess with that just for a little bit. Enter new value for zoom wheel. If I just hit 1, what happens? Goes backwards. That's forward zooms out, backwards zooms in. So if I type in zoom again, go to zoom wheel, change it to 0, then I can, if I roll the mouse back, it zooms out. If I roll it forward, zooms in. So depending on what you like to do, I like to roll forward to zoom in and roll out, but you can flip it either way depending on how you like, how your mouse rolls. Okay, let's get out of that zooming and panning. Of course, if I just hold my mouse in, you see that changes to a little hand, and then I can pan back and forth across the drawing area. If I have a different color object, let me just let me draw another circle. I'll just select this. I'm just going to move it so it crosses this. And I'm going to change the color of it to this. So you can see how this line lays over the top of the yellow. If I left click on this and then right click with my mouse and go down to draw order, I can send it to the back so that now the yellow line overlays the orange line. And in civil engineering, you may find this helpful because you're going to want to know what is hiding something else, so that putting these lines in the right order may be important, especially if you're laying out roads and bridges. You need to know what's the overpass and what's falling underneath the road. So just again, right click or just left click on the object to select it, then right click, go down to draw order and say I want to bring it to the front or the back, and it will automatically change that for you. So we'll move ahead. We've gone through some of these, the snap, of course, we've looked at down here at the bottom. We can go to object snap settings. We can see that I'm set to endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, tangent, and perpendicular. Now, if I wanted to just, let's say I wanted to draw a line and I wanted it to be tangent off this circle. So I'm going to select a line, and you can see it wants to select to the standard points. But if I just hit T for tangent, oops, how about TAN? You'll notice that it will only select a tangent point. So if I want to select here, it's going to draw that line, but it's going to keep it tangent whichever way I go. It's going to keep that tangent position. So if I left click here, hit escape, you'll notice that my select point, if I just select this, is right here. That shows me my tangent point. So I can force it to snap to any of those points. Let's just see what we have for options again. Whoops, not line weight settings. Right here, sorry. Double vision. So again, there's our tangent points. If I wanted to force it to a midpoint, MID, let's just try this one. So here's the line. I'm going to start a line, and I just start out here, but I'm going to type in MID, enter, and it automatically will only snap to a midpoint. So you can force that object snap if it gets confusing and you know you want that midpoint, but you can't get it because it wants to go to the center point. Now the next one, you'll notice as soon as I do that, it gives me all my other options. So if I want to go to this center point, I'll just come out here and find that point, or I can go, there's my tangent. But once you've selected a point and it's going to a specific location, you have to make sure your mouse is right near where the tangent is, or it'll find a endpoint. There's a perpendicular to the circle. There's a parent intersection, and it's also the parent intersection and snap overrides. I just want to find the endpoint. And let's see. Of course, circle doesn't have an endpoint, it just has handles, but I could find this endpoint up here. Properties. Yep. So it's just a handle, I guess, on the circles. So now let's look at, we've gone through our object snaps a little bit. We're going to move forward. Extensions. One of the things that I don't use that much, but I notice is in here, let's just type in the command break. And if I left click on this, you'll notice it allows me to break a circle up to create an arc, which is kind of cool. If I want to break this line, let's just try, I'll hit the enter. Remember, enter key will always remember your last command. So I can left click here, and then I can break that line into two segments. And now when I select it, you'll notice I got different handles on each one. So we got break, we've got extend. So if I want to extend, let's just say extend, just type it in, select the object, enter, and select object to extend or so I'm just going to select this object since it doesn't intersect. Extend. Select the object, enter, and select object to extend, shift, and I'm not sure, I don't usually use that because why would I just grab this and bring it over until it intersects. So it's kind of a nominal, whether you use it or not is, you may have to practice with it a little bit to get it good. So we got center, quadrant snaps. You can go through. Now erase has been an issue a little bit with some of the Mac tools. I use the delete key, so if I just select an object and I hit delete, it's gone. If that doesn't work, let me Control Z or say oops, and I do a pick first and set it to 0. Now if I select this object and hit my delete key, it doesn't work. So if that's what yours is doing, the first thing I would try is type pick first, set it to 1, and now when I left click on the object and hit delete, it'll take it out. But again, sometimes with a Mac it doesn't really work that well, so you might have to just select it and just right click and say erase. That's the easiest way to do it in some cases. A Of course, you can select multiple objects. Take this thing out and just right click and say erase. Again, one hand, I don't even have to touch the keyboard. Control Z, undo. And you can undo multiple times to go back in your history. And that's what they talk about on 241, 242, redo several commands. If Control Z is undo, then Control R is redo. So if I go to a Control R, that doesn't work. Whoops, unless I'm hitting the wrong one. So let's just type redo, hit escape. Nothing to redo. Oh, okay. Well, let me delete this. Erase. Yeah, nothing to do. We'll just stick with the Control Z. Of course, the oops command, if you, again, that oops is just your Control Z. They don't even talk about it in the book. We've got copy. Now, the next tool is an array, which, again, I don't use too much of, but let's try it here. Let's take this circle right here. I'll bring it over here. Oops, don't need the dimension line with it. We'll get rid of that. So we'll bring it up. So the array tool is right here, or you can type in the word array, rectangular, but we'll just start with array rectangular. It says select objects, enter. And I want to do an associative. It says create associative array, yes. Base point, my rows is 1. My columns is, oops, I only have 1 anyway. So there's my base point. If I bring this out, it says what's the spacing you want? I'm going to say 2. I'll say 4. Oops, messing something up. Like I said, I don't use this too much. Oops. I should be able to manipulate this. There we go. So as I pull this out, you'll notice that things get spread apart. So that's basically if you had a group of chairs or an array of desks that you wanted to lay out, or trees in rows, then you could use the array tool to do that. But they all become one unit when you do an array, so that's why it's a little, oops, that dimension out, and that dimension. So let's try a polar array. Select the object. Specify the center point. So I'm just going to say this is my center point. And there's my array. I can say A for angle is going to be 30. So that changes the array to a 30-degree angle. Let's say items. Right now it's 6. Let's change it to 12 within that area. So that's an array of 12 circles. Let's change items again, I. Let's change it to 4. And let's go angle. And right now it's at 50. Let's change it to 360. I thought that's what try 340. There we go, 340 degrees. And now I can hit I, and I want 12 items. So there you go. creating a polar array. Again, something I don't use that often, because if I wanted to, let's say I put an array out here, and oops, there, zoom, come on, doesn't want to let me zoom out. Yeah. So say I wanted to take this one out right here. If I select it, you see everything selects. So let's and when I select that, you notice you get this tool up here. You can change the spacing between. You get this nice toolbox. But what if I just wanted to take that one out? If I select it, and I'm just going to type in explode. I'm just seeing if this works. Now I can select the individual item. So it is possible, even once you array that, to release the array by exploding the object. So now we can manipulate individual items. So that explode tool is something that's fairly easy to use. Let's create a polyline now. And I want that polyline to be a curve. So if I select this, right click and go down to, this is a little later on in the chapter, click this tool and we'll say curve fit. What that does is it takes those points and it manipulates a Bezier curve throughout. So now if I want to do an array along a path, say they were street lights that needed to go in every 40 feet, I'm going to select the object, hit enter, select the path, and what it does is it places those out. Here's my tool. My distance between, let's say I want it to be 6. And one row between, oh, there we go. Maybe that's it. Let's say 3. I should be able to grab this. As I move this along the line, it changes the spacing. I thought maybe I could do it up there, but you can see that, oh, there it goes. Now it's 6. Now it's 4. So again, you can play around with that. So that's placing an array along a path. So let's say you had a street light. Let's get rid of this. Let's put a street light. Let's see if this works. We'll just put a little circle right here. That represents a street light, and this represents the center of the road. So we're going to select our array along a path. We're going to select our item, enter. We're going to select our path, and we're going to select our spacing now. So our spacing is going to be 4. So you can see now that followed the path all the way around the road. So there's a great way to place street lights a certain distance off the center line or the edge of a road all the way along that path. So just another tool in your arsenal to make things easier to work with. So you could kind of play around with that and figure it out, as I have. Again, it's not a tool I use a lot because I'm not doing a lot of civil work, but the array tool can be a powerful tool to save you time and energy. So I'm going to pass up on that, get through the array. They spend quite a bit of time in this chapter on it. Now, the mirror tool is kind of cool. Let's say I had this group and I needed to draw it in a mirror image. If I select everything here and I just type in mirror, or I could go up here and select mirror, it's going to ask me for a line. So there's my tangent line. That's fine. And then you can see as I go around here, if I want to go horizontal, let's just make a mirror copy of it vertically. So what I'm creating is basically the mirror line, that line that this is going to mirror against. If I go horizontal, it's going to mirror it vertically. If I go straight up and down, you'll notice it'll mirror it left to right or vertically. So we'll go in this direction, left click. Now, before it actually puts it in there, it says, do you want to erase the original object? By default, it says no, I want to keep that. If I said yes, it would erase the bottom half, but I'm going to say no, and I'm just going to hit enter. So now it's created a mirror image on the tangent point of this arc. Now from that point, I can select these units, select mirror again. Now I can find this endpoint and this endpoint, which says again, do you want to erase the object? I say no, hit enter, and it gives me multiple objects. Kind of crazy looking, but still enjoyable. I'll do a Control Z a couple times to get rid of that. We've done the offset tools. I want you to look at page 268, and what I'm going to do is a quick little drawing. If you look at figure 4-46A, and the two circles, now there's some dimensions missing there, but if you look further on to page 284, the two circles are dimensioned out there. So let's get those drawn first. I'm going to actually, I'll just move over here, and we'll go with our object layer so it'll show up a little thicker. I'm going to start with our circle. It has a radius of 3 because it has a diameter of 6. And we have another circle that if I stop here, and we're going to type in TK, first tracking point. It's right here. We're going to track over a distance of 9.6, enter, and then we're going to track down a distance of 2.2. There's my starting point, and I just hit enter. There's my next circle, and this one is going to be 2 for radius. Okay? TK. TK is tracking, so it allows you to offset things from a specific point. So that gives us our dimensions. If I go back now to that drawing on page 268, we have a radius of 5 on the top, connecting this circle to this circle. We have a radius. So let's try something to make it as simple as possible. I'm going to select my center, or my center point of the circle. I don't know if I want center point or edges. 2-point circle. Oh, no, we want tan radius. Tan radius. Okay, got it. So let's go tan radius. There's my tangent point. You can see that snap point. Left click here. Left click here. And my radius is going to be 5. Bada bing. I know, don't worry. Same tool again, so just hit your enter key. And tan radius. TTR. There's my tangent point. There's my tangent point. Radius is going to be 25. Oh, weird. All right. So now what do we do? Let's type in trim, T-R-I-M, or just TR. Select objects, or just hit enter for select all. I want to trim this to its intersections. I want to trim this to its intersections. So it's going to find those points where it touches the object. And there we have figure 4-46A, just using our manipulation, or drawing and our manipulation tools to make this work. I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that. In addition, they've got a polygon shape on the side, and it has a 3. Let me see if I can do it with the polygon tool. So it has 8 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it's an octagon. Now it wants to know the center. We don't have the center, so I'm going to hit my drop down. So let's go to edge, specify first point, and it has a 3 for the length. So there's my. Now I need to move this to the center of this location. So it looks like figure 4-46E. So select it, and I need to find the center point of this. So I'm going to select move. I'm going to say midpoint. See how that green line shows up? Let me do it again. Green line, and just go over and kiss this one on the center point. And see how when I come back, it finds those two intersection points and says, oh, that's where you want to be. And just left click. Now I've got the center point of this. And if I come down to this circle, it'll automatically show the center point of the circle and lock it in. So we can lock that in. If I change the color of this to something else, and let's say this was a fastener that's in the background, I don't want to see it. Let's just select it, right click. Let's say draw order, send to back. So now it's behind this. So if it's behind this, then this portion of the line should show up as a hidden line, right? So what was the command we used to break that? Let's type in break. Select object, and I want to break here. And I want to break, whoops, I got to hit enter. So now I can hit TR. I'm going to trim this. Oops. Hit enter, select all, trim that to there. Now if I do a shift, it will actually find the intersection of these. Now I can select this, whoops, Control Z. Hit escape to get out of your trim option. Now I can select these, and I can change those to a different color, might be a different line weight, and I can also change the line type. Now I don't have a hidden line in this drawing, so I'm just going to say other. And we're going to go load up a hidden line right here. Hit OK. And OK. Now I can select hidden. Select this and say I want hidden. Now we've got that object in the background. So we've saved all that time by just using our manipulation tools to create this object, so we know that this octagon shape is behind, and it broke it up with a hidden line. So rather than fiddling around trying to get everything in place there, we can actually create this even a little bit more complicated than what they show on the drawing. Of course, rotate is a tool we can use. If I select this whole thing now, and I'm just going to type in rotate, I can find a base point, which might be this center point here, and we can rotate this by, let's make a copy of it. Just type in C for copy, and we can rotate it. Let's rotate it 45 degrees. Specify rotation angle is going to be 45. There it is. So again, it kind of messed everything up and covered some of my hidden lines, but you can see how powerful that tool is. I'm going to do a Control Z to get it back where it was. Let's just do a rotate. I think we just did this anyway. From this point, we can rotate it. And if you just stop your mouse, it actually gives you the angle. Now, if I wanted to rotate this 90 degrees, I'm just going to type in 90, and it's going to rotate it. Oops. Yeah, I guess it would be a little off center anyway, because let's rotate it the other way. R-O-T-A, whoops. Rotate, R-O-T, center point, and we'll bring it up. You don't even have to type in 90 because it'll kind of lock in there for you. Let's say rotation angle, let's say 95 degrees. There it is. Just like that. Let's see what else we got. Stretch. Of course, let's go through scale first. If you look on page 272, we've got scale. So we'll just select this object. Whoops. Select this object left to right, and I want to scale it. So you can just type in scale. What's my base point? This is my base point, and I can start stretching it by hand. But if I just want it twice as big, I'm just going to type in 2. Factor of 2. Now it's twice as big as what it was before. If I select it again and type scale, find a base point. Now I want to make it 0.25. So it'll be 1/4 the size it is right now. So everything is scalable that we have selected. And it comes from a base point. Now, if I wanted to stretch something, let's just try the stretch tool. We'll select an object, enter, tangent point. Yeah, it didn't seem to work very well. It may only work with rectangular objects. All right, let's go by the book here. So, stretch. Follow the directions. We'll select these objects. Okay, enter. Base point, and we'll pull this over. So it stretched everything in that direction. But it didn't pick up these lines, so it didn't stretch those. Let's Control Z and try this again by going from right to left. And now we'll do stretch, base point, pull it over, and now it pulls everything with it, so it all stays connected, and the dimensions get updated at the same time. So if we had 2 objects and one needed to be a little bit larger, we may end up doing this with our title block a little bit later on as we create one for 11 by 17. But again, just another neat little tool. We've already done the explode. We've talked about the break command on page 276. We've done the explode on 4.26. Circular arcs, we don't need to mess with that too much. A lot of those we can do with our own tools. We should probably look at fillet and chamfer a little bit. So I'm just going to draw a rectangular box like that. Still in hidden line mode, but that's okay. Continuous. So let's do a fillet first. Fillet is round. So follow the directions, select first object, and it says select second object or shift select to apply corner or radius. And my radius is going to be, let's say 1. Select second object, bada bing. I'm just left mouse. Let's do this bottom one with a 2 radius. So I'm going to hit enter to redo that. Fillet, select first line. My radius, I'm just going to type R. This is going to be 3. Enter. And now it says select your second line. So if I select this, it actually gives me a preview of what that radius is going to look like. All right. Now let's fillet the other side, or not fillet, but chamfer. So we'll drop this down and say I want to chamfer. So select first line. So I'm going to select this one. And we'll say I want distance, D. Specify first chamfer distance is going to be 2. My second chamfer distance is going to be 3. select second line. Bada bing. So you'll notice it going over 2 and up 3. So that's my second line. Let's do it up here on a different method rather than the 2-point. We'll hit enter to redo this. And this time we're going to select first line. And I'm going to do it by angle method. A. My angle needs to be 57 degrees. Select. Specify angle from first line. Select second line. Chamfer distance is too large. Hold on. Chamfer. And select my first line. Angle method. Specify chamfer length on the first line. We'll just say 2. I wasn't reading. Chamfer angle. Select second line. Oh, there it is. So as soon as I hit the second line, it's going to give me that 30-degree angle from that distance. So let's just do that again. I'm still confused here. Select the first line. And I want to use the angle method. Specify chamfer length on the first line. So this time, let's say 3. Specify chamfer angle on the second line. This time, let's say 45. And then it says select the line. So there's a 45-degree line that is 3 down on the first line and has that 45-degree angle. So you can either do it by distance on both legs, or you can do it by distance and angle on polar coordinates. So there's a few examples of that in the book, but they're fairly easy to work through. I've got another example in here of just using the extend tool. We use the trim tool. So let's see if this works with just using the trim tool. I'm going to place a circle here. Oops, looking for 2 points. Circle by center radius. Still had it in the old mode. And we'll just do another circle out here. And I'm going to break it. Just want to make an arc there. So, okay. So we want to extend. So I'm going to just type TR, enter, select all, and it says select object to trim or shift select to extend. So if I just hold down my shift key and left click on this, it's going to show how that extends on that side or that side. So we can make a Mickey Mouse here. Now the other way to do this, we'll just type in the command extend, select all, and select object to extend. Which I can do it that way, but it's just as easy to type TR and do a shift and then left click on the object. Will obviously extend also. So that goes through 294 through, they do talk about polyline editing. We can explode them or do different things. We won't get into that too much. You can mess around with it. But and they talk about curving and decurving. We just did that with the other one. So if you create a polyline like this, these might be connecting survey points, which we'll have an exercise in later. And we just left click on it, hit our right mouse button, go to polyline, and we can curve fit. We can select it and right click, go to polyline, bada bing, where is it? Right there, polyline, decurve, left click, go to polyline and spline fit. So splines and curves give you a little bit different results. If we were doing survey lines, it actually selected, you can see where your points still are, but what it's done is interpolated those to give you a little smoother. So if we right click, go to polyline, and this time we'll do a curve fit, you can see how it does a much more sweeping, it actually connects those points. And probably for surveying, the spline fit would be more accurate because it's finding the averages between those. Although the survey points themselves are at that elevation, so it probably makes sense to do the curve fit for a survey line when we're connecting data points. Although survey points, if they're odd and they're all kind of different where you're going through there, you might do the polyline spline fit because it would find the average in between. But if you're looking at specific elevations, you're finding those points that are at exactly 200 feet above sea level or whatever it is, it's going to use your curve fit to actually make those topo lines accurate. So we'll play around with that. We've got an exercise later in the chapter, or not this chapter, but in another chapter that we can work with. So that was editing polylines. We talked about properties. Anytime you select something and you want to know about it, just right click and go down to properties. It's going to bring up a box over here that tells us what layer it is, what the line weight is, what the geometry is by layer, and you can actually pull this down a little further. So it's going to give you all kinds of information on location, and if I wanted to change the color this to something else, you can do it right in this location. If I want to change the line to continuous, we can do it right there. Just another tool in our arsenal. And you know what? That pretty much takes us through chapter 4. So just as a side note, if, for instance, we do have a snowstorm on Monday, I will record this week's lesson and put it online. But if we don't have a snowstorm cancellation, it will only be in the lab. So you need to show up and be there to enjoy our next exercise. So that should do it for me today, and happy snowshoeing. Bye.